Right. Welcome everyone. We've got some nice updates today and also got some free game for client acquisition, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna go over some of the items that briefly some of the items that we released last week. We're wrapping up our one of our new updates that should be released later this week. And that will have a bunch of the things that I mentioned later today or later in this meeting. But always for everyone watching, of course, we have our roadmap and changelog. You can see all of the most current updates in detail with all the different things that we've been adding, as well as be able to add any items that you want to see to the public roadmap. And you can access that and all of our other support options, including a link to our daily support calls, which will be in 30 minutes. That's right after this call. That's every day, Monday through Friday. And that's with myself and my co-founder, Tim. So we do those daily support calls to help people solve any questions that they have or any issues that they might see within the platform. Super useful. And we're going to be continuing to do that for the foreseeable future. Just to quickly review, I won't go into too much depth on this because we've already reviewed this once or twice, but we have added all of the new models to the platform. So if you go inside of any of your AI agents, this will allow you to add and update any of the alternative models. So these are ones like Claude and Grok. So these are now available for every agency and all agency users. And it's mostly beneficial when OpenAI has a issue with their API. All of the functionality will continue to work when using Grok or Claude. So that is quite useful. We've been getting some good feedback on that as well. There have been some issues with Anthropic's API. They were down a little bit over the last few days. So if there's some issues that you're seeing with Claude specifically, that might be due to their API. And a good way to kind of test that is just see if their status is up and running or not. Same exact way that you would do that with OpenAI. So that's been kind of the big update over the last week or so. And then looking ahead towards some of the things that we're wrapping up and going to be finishing up here, we've continuously been working on improving and updating all of our analytics systems. So right now there's just the main three cards, but we're now going to be including more analytics and functionality around the ability to see how many conversations and messages that you're having across the platform. And the cool thing is you'll be able to do this with a comparison, so a date selector, but you'll also be able to do this per sub account and per AI agent. So you'll be able to have more finer control and detail on, how much action is occurring across your agency platform. And you'll also be able to export all of this data into a CSV. So that's going to be super useful for everyone that's running super large accounts, and you'll be able to continuously monitor how that's doing. And we have some other graphs here that will be very similar, but just kind of displayed in a nice graphical way, as well as being able to see kind of a overview of where your chats are happening throughout the world, which is a cool feature. So all this will be rolled out in one of our next updates. So stay tuned for that because you'll be seeing that update in your dashboard shortly. Next up, on top of that, we have a very cool update that's going to be really, really improving the third-party integrations. So as it stands right now, a lot of the third-party integrations needed some sort of intermediary step, and typically we've done that with platforms like Replit. But the idea was always to kind of not have to or not need to use that third-party code. And so we've been working really heavily on improving the custom functions ability. And we're wrapping this up here, but we're going to be updating the custom functions to allow for multiple different types of requests. And the benefit of this is now it will work directly with third-party APIs without the need for intermediary code. So one of the examples I always like to bring up is with Shopify. So let's say you have a customer in Shopify that is looking to, do some sort of functionality that will for example, like pull product availability, or if a customer wants to ask a question about their tracking, their order and their tracking data, we can create a custom function that interfaces directly with Shopify's API. And what happens is the AI agent will basically ask the user, or the user might say like, "Hey, I want to track my order." And the AI agent will be like, "Okay, what's your email that you used to make that purchase?" Some sort of identifying piece of information. That information, that email would be then sent through the custom function to Shopify. With Shopify, they use the GET request. Shopify would then return all of the information it has associated with that email for that order. And then the AI agent will be able to parse all of that information and then provide an answer back to the user within a second or two that says, "Oh, your order is on its way. Here's the current status of it. Here's a link for the tracking and everything else." So that's going to be really cool for a lot of different third-party APIs and functionality where we can create these connections and integrations again without the need for third-party code. So this is going to make things a lot simpler for everyone across the board. Super excited to get this out. We're going to have a lot of examples and use cases on this. And one of the reasons why this also works so well is because inside of the prompt, we can format the data in a way that these third-party APIs would expect. So that these two things combined with having the prompt and the custom functions ability to send different types of requests will basically open the floodgates to essentially any third-party API that has the ability to be queried or sent a request. So super excited on that. Like I said, we'll have a ton of tutorials and more information about that soon. Next up, we have one of the features that people have been asking for quite a while, which is message rate limits. And this is going to be out shortly as well. So this will be inside the settings tab where you can essentially enable a message limit and a cooldown period depending on how often or the amount of messages that you'd like for the AI agents to be able to answer before it kind of, slows things down a little bit. People have been asking about this for mainly the specific reason of protecting against other bots or having two AIs kind of talk to each other that ends up in kind of an unlimited loop. So, and typically that's with more deep integrations with using like the API and things like that. So this will be out in the settings tab, which will allow you to set this. And by default, it will be off, but you can enable this and then set whatever rate that you'd like. And this will be done per conversation. So that way, any new user would be able to talk with the AI agent like normal and not have any issues or anything like that. So that's kind of a brief look at some of the things that we're going to be releasing over the next week or so. We also have some more exciting updates where we're going to be introducing some added functionality. We're going to be introducing another few different models like the O3 model, as well as other things like native integration with web search for master chat. So very similar to things like ChatGPT, where it could go and search the web and provide context inside of the AI agent. That's all going to be available. And that will be something that will be available when you have your own API key enabled for OpenAI, because there's some additional costs and features that are associated with that. So we'll keep you guys posted on that, but just kind of looking ahead, our goal here is to really kind of solidify the chat while also simultaneously continuing to work on our voice features, as I'm sure many of you have been interested in and have been asking for updates on that. We are still working on that. Some other things took some higher priority. So we're still working on it. And as soon as we have more updates and for that, we'll let you guys know. So moving aside and ahead from some of the new features, I wanted to mention a very kind of a specific marketing channel and example or use case that I've been using for the last couple of weeks to drive a lot of engagement, but also for other businesses that have started to take this strategy and run with it. So if we're all thinking about, as an AI agency, how do we acquire new customers? How do we get more eyeballs on our offer and and get people interested in working with us. One of the ways that we can do that, and I always come back to this, which is organic social media. Now, when we typically think about organic social media, we think about things like, making videos and trying to, put yourself out there in different ways. But what I've started to find is the videos, especially on Instagram, don't actually perform that well compared to things like carousel posts. And granted, I have a larger audience on Instagram, but the same strategy has been applied to smaller businesses. One of my colleagues who's running this app has a pretty small following, but they started implementing this strategy as well, where they are essentially creating carousels that are driving people to comment a keyword. And when they comment a keyword, they're sending an offer for a free value opt-in, which is simply like a guide. And that guide then has a call to action to sign up for their platform. And as we can see, there's a lot of comments and likes on some of these posts for the account size. And I just wanted to mention this because a lot of people have been trying, have been asking us, how do we get more customers and things like that? Well, if we start thinking about creating content that is value based for people that are interested in this AI stuff, this is a fantastic way to do so. And I have a video here that I will post in the chat, and I'll also link it down below for everyone that goes into detail about how you can think about this and I go in more depth on that. So it's really exciting to see that other people have started to take advantage of this, and that's why I wanted to mention it in today's office hours because these are the types of things that typically don't last super long once a ton of people figure it out. But that being said, it's been working incredibly well for me as well. So I would highly recommend to take a peek at that and check it out and give it a try. Tim, anything you wanted to add there?
No, not that I can think of.
Cool. Drew, what about you?
All good on my end.
All right, so there's the link to that YouTube video. And so like I said at the beginning of the meeting, the team, we're all kind of in heads down development mode right now, working on getting some of these new features out for everybody. So not too much else to go along for today, but just to reiterate that our changelog will have all of the updates and everything as we produce them and update to the system. So definitely take a look at that, and you can always subscribe with your email to be notified. We also send out a weekly recap with all of our recordings, like this meeting and anything that we've done in the platform as well. So that being said, I'll open it up to any questions or comments, concerns that anybody might have. We do have our daily support call right after this. So if you have any questions that you would like not to be recorded, you can hop on that meeting as well.
Hey Ross, it's Tim.
Hey, Tim.
How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for joining.
So I've got a little project that I'm involved with. I want to be able to use the chatbot on a charity website page that is pulling data from lots of different areas. So just to give you some context, so we're doing a 850-mile bike ride around
Okay.
sort of Northern Europe,
Wow.
Holland, Belgium, France, and Germany in a couple of weeks. And the idea would be that we put a bot on the website that has access to weather information, to Strava data, possibly towns or city information, if we can grab that kind of information. So the question, I guess, is what would you recommend is the best way to do those feeds? Would it be by scraping sites or using custom functions or documentation? What would you
Yeah,
suggest, really?
that's a great question. I would probably do a mix of those. So for anything that's static, like information about, like what resources a city might have or, interesting stops along interesting, or like good cafes to stop at and at a rest stop or something, more static information that could be all data that is scraped from different websites or different sources. That wouldn't need to be dynamic, so to speak, compared to something like the weather. So the weather that would definitely be best connected through a custom function. And you could do that. There's multiple different free and open weather APIs that can basically pull in live weather data for wherever the person is interested in looking. I think we had an example of that I made months and months ago, but with the new functions tab, we would be able to do that in a much simpler process by just connecting directly to these APIs. And so the way that would work from the user's point of view is they would say, you know, what's the weather looking like in XYZ city? And then the AI agent would go and call that API to get the current weather stats for that city. And then it would be able to return that dynamic and up-to-date information to the user.
Sure, cool. Do you have any recommended weather apps you've used for that?
I mean, to be
I
honest,
remembered the video actually, so I'll dig that out again. Was that on? Would that be on YouTube still?
yeah. I feel like I just used, it might have been this one. Yeah, I mean, I would probably just look at whichever one is kind of the easiest to work with. I think it was this one actually. Yeah.
It's still at
Uh,
this stage, then I'd need to use Replit and build it out that way, would I?
yes, and for yeah, for the next couple days. When is the when is this happening?
15th of May.
15th May. Okay. Yeah, for that time period, it would probably be best to still use Replit, and the benefit of that is I could send you a cloned version of the one that we've already built. So then
Okay, cool.
you wouldn't need to rebuild it.
Thank you.
And then yeah, and then beyond that, it would just work directly with that API, and once we're able to get those types of examples up and running, we could also send, you know, send that your way as well.
Brilliant. Okay. You drop me that on an email, yeah?
Sorry?
Or would you be able to drop that on an email or in the
Yeah,
Discord?
yeah. Yeah, I'll send you an email with a link to that. And yeah, you should be able to just like click a button and it will clone it into your account. And then I'll include the directions and of course the video as well. So that way you can easily get that installed.
Very cool. Thank you. Being recommended is maybe using a Perplexity API. That would be quite useful to grab city information if there was one. And Lucas is suggesting Windy as an API app as well.
Those are both possibilities. I think it would be a similar custom function call at this point to be able to call either of those APIs. Where we've been looking into adding Perplexity as another option, along with similar to the OpenAI web search tool. So it's like these more integrated tools that the API, these LLM providers are providing us. So we're kind of just looking at how, because the way that they process this data is so confusing for not only us, but like the average user, because they basically quantify it as like the amount of data that's returned in a search that then affects the cost of like what that message might cost. So that's one of the things that we're actually in development right now with how we can provide that additional functionality, but also make it cheaper for you guys to use that functionality and not just get charged a bunch of money, because then that wouldn't be so useful. So I think with things like that, we're definitely going to be pushing towards using your own API key. And this is also going to be reflective in more advanced models moving forward. For those that might not be aware, the OpenAI specifically has introduced this new concept of organization verification, and they've gated some of these models behind this verification step. And their OpenAI's reasoning for this is essentially there's a small amount of users and developers that are going against their terms of service. So, in order to protect themselves, they've introduced this verification step, which basically puts certain models behind, like you're not allowed to use certain models unless your organization is verified. Both Tim and I had to do this process where you sign up and you have to do like a face scan and submit your ID and do all this, you know, all this stuff basically in order to be verified. Unfortunately, I see that as kind of the first step towards this new world where in order for security and liability, that is going to be kind of required for all usage. So right now, nothing has changed on our end because we are not required to do that for the GPT-4o models or the mini models. but they are required for O1, O3, O3 mini, O4 mini. And as they introduce more advanced models, I'm only expecting that to remain. So right now, to summarize what I've just been saying, the goal is to give you guys that functionality, but we're gonna have to do that by having you guys use your own API keys. So that will give you better functionality, but it will also reduce the cost overall because then you're not paying per message cost to us. So hopefully that makes sense. Other Tim, did that make sense? What I just said?
Yeah,
Okay.
completely.
Okay, cool. And then there's this big cogs.cc. Oh, nice. Are you going to be writing in this, Tim?
Yep. Yeah. So it's Thursday next week. So we have to cycle we're in the north of the UK in Yorkshire. So we have to cycle to the coast. It's about 77 miles. And then we catch an overnight ferry to Rotterdam. And then we go down through Belgium, a bit through Luxembourg into France, and then back from Germany.
Very cool.
And we're raising money for two charities, a local hospice and also Mind, which is a charity I'm involved with.
Awesome.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I've got a question though, Tim. I'm working with a nonprofit as well, a cancer group, and it's so hard. Like, are you asking them to pay? Are you charging? Are you charging them, Tim?
For this event, no, because I'm effectively Bobby AI, which is my chatbot tool, is going to be the one of the ride sponsors. So we've
Okay.
built the website for them, and we're going to use that as a bit of a showcase and a demo as well at the same time.
Perfect. 'Cause that's how I plan to do mine too. I'm one of the sponsors, but it was just so difficult. Like I am being asked by other nonprofit. I was like, what do I do? Sponsor all of them? I don't know. All right, good to know.
We'll
That's
keep you
cool.
posted, and we'll be posting every day. So
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
You'll be the king of Strava for this few days, I'm sure.
and that would be interesting. So if we could, I think Strava does have an API, so it'll be interesting to see how we can pull that ride data. So we can either pull it by rider or by route.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we could definitely work something up here. Yeah, and this is where we definitely will use ChatGPT and AI and Claude to help us figure out how to integrate with these APIs. But if it's open and they have documentation like this, the likelihood of us being able to integrate with them is extremely high.
Great. Okay.
So that's cool.
So I'll have a play and I'll reach out if we get stuck. And
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, best of luck.
And share your success story, Tim. I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But we're also for this year. So we got involved with an event called the AI Beach Party last year, which is a beach in central London. So we did a bit of a showcase, and again we're doing that again this year. So again we're sponsoring. So it's just to have something which is not a standard use case example, something that's a bit more interesting, and is also giving back a bit as well. I think it's important for people to see how the AI can be used in different contexts, not just as, oh, we're here to scrape leads or we're here to sort of, book appointments, all that kind of stuff, because that's the mundane. It's a necessary thing, but it's not very exciting. But if we can apply some of the AI stuff to something which is a bit more exciting and other people can relate to, then I think that's a good use case.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's those are like those more simple use cases that might not be like as sexy as, integrating with a Strava API or things like that, but it does provide that initial kind of aha moment to the people that are not, familiar with that stuff.
Yep.
So, very cool. Alrighty. I think that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.